Hey y'all. Hey, I thought I would get on here and say happy new moon energies coming in and just reviewing and renewing and restoring and all of that good stuff. Supportive, um, nourishing, like attention, intention, focus, self care, reflection, and penetration. And that's just so perfect too. Still working with my themes of the sun and the moon and judgment. So, yeah, I talked about judgment the last couple of times and just seeing more into judgment to the judgment card and also letting go of judgments or observing judgments and um, seeing what those judgments have to tell me, have to say to me, have to show me about where I can be more inclusive and allowing, or notice where there needs to be boundaries or some kind of self-care. What's asking for balance, what's asking for attention. Yeah, in some of those ways. And yeah, is on the tip of my tongue the last couple times too about like what the judgment card means, well, to me, and what it's holding for me, and what it's nudging me to choose. And part of that was inspired action. It's action, taking action. Yeah. And so, yeah, taking those internal actions and like the actions in the outer, and applying what I've learned, and yeah, putting it into practice and playing with it and acting or embodying that wisdom that has been tempered and refined. Yeah, connecting to that anger in certain ways to act for change and to let it be fuel instead of consuming me. And yeah, just been renewing and reviewing and looking back at some things. And yeah, since one of my stories was I don't feel acknowledged or I don't feel valued, and yeah, in certain ways didn't feel received or appreciated. So what I chose to do is acknowledge where can I acknowledge me, where have I been acknowledged too, and I have been acknowledged and I have been held. So I acknowledge that and I praise that and I thank that, and yeah, where I can acknowledge myself too, my triumphs, my strengths, my wounds, and my victories. And so I've been writing my journal about that, and yeah, realizing that there is no lack, and remembering, yeah, that there is no lack, and that it's all within. And yeah, that relates to my dream. Don't go looking outside of me for what I really need. And even though, yeah, having like those expectations and those pedestal perfections of what I think life should be and everything, those are just programs, really. And like, yeah, in a way, it's just old beliefs, old core beliefs about how it should be, and they're not even really mine. And so it's just kind of funny, like looking at it in those ways, and seeing where I'm at, where love's at, where it's at. So, looking at the moon and the reflection and the mirror, and yeah, coming back to this little symbol or symbolic symbolism. The snake, the Ouroboros, the reflection, and yeah, life that seems to be, yeah, frozen in time in a certain way. And that's interesting too. But to sing it back to life, singing it back to life, or singing it into life, singing it into being, becoming through being. Yeah. But, renewing and reviewing all the lessons learned and all the challenges. All the challenges that have been resolved, or are in the process of, yeah, being healed, being revealed, and just, yeah, falling away or unfolding in its own mysterious ways. And yeah, so it was kind of funny. I last time went to look at Judgment in my Lady J. McCloskey book. It's the Tarot Revisioned, and yeah, I was gonna look at Judgment, but then I flipped open to the Moon, and it was just amazing. Really, like what that holds, what the Moon holds, the reflection of the sun. Yeah, so it is like feminine consciousness, and like there is a dark side to the Moon that's always like unknowable. And yeah, that's interesting too. But the Moon, to believe is to reflect, to know is to penetrate. Robert Flood. And I love, yeah, Lee J. McCloskey's book, The Tarot Revisioned. It's such a beautiful vision of the tarot and the archetypes. And the fool's inner journey. And yeah, gotta claim the fool. Because wisdom cannot exist alone. So claim all the foolishness and the folly and the wisdom. So the Moon is the archetype. Yeah. Archetype is the 18th key in the Tarot Arcana and is represented astrologically by the mutable water sign Pisces. Pisces is associated with the collective unconscious, the transpersonal, dreams, unknown fears, confinement, and insanity. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac and represents the culmination of the preceding 11 signs. The attribution of the tarot moon to Pisces is significant because Pisces is where the boundaries of the socialized self begin to dissolve, moving awareness into deeper, more transpersonal modes of perception. From early childhood, the training of the intellect involves learning to segregate ideas, people, and things, establishing an I-thou relationship with objective reality. Ideas, language, and preconceptions work to define and protect the ego, helping it to sustain a sense of autonomy and personal awareness. The moon represents an entry into the mysteries of the unconscious, wherein rules, forms, and egoic boundaries are no longer secure but struggle to maintain primacy. The moon prompts without words or the familiar sights of day. She leads into the dark, chthonic waters of the unconscious, wherein the doorways to both madness and illumination reside. And let's see. I really liked the symbolism. But first I'll read this page on 224. The moon's mysteries are shrouded in secrecy because she is without words. Her path is through the concourse of the body, its impulse and emotional nature, dreams, unconsciousness, fears of the unknown, and is never the same twice. She is at once seductive and dangerous. She is the caretaker of the body, and the body must be honored. True change affects the cells themselves and is not simply the alteration of brain chemistry. What occurs is a rewiring of the impulse nature within the individual, allowing not just a momentary thrust into the unconscious, but heretofore ignored or unimagined areas of self to be assimilated and utilized in new ways. This in turn alters one's understanding of and relationship with perceived reality. It is important to remember the moon's dual nature, which is illustrated by her revealing only one face toward the earth, or one face toward earth. The dark side of the moon remains forever mysterious and unknowable. The moon, on a mundane level, represents the emotional, passionate, and psychic nature, and on a transpersonal level, symbolizes the ancient wisdom and informing genius within corporeal form. The moon signifies the impulse and feeling nature, whose language of perception must be learned and trusted in order to navigate effectively within the inner realms. The awakened moon holds the key to transforming memory and desire into a vehicle of consciousness able to journey into the deepest mysteries of inspiration, mind, and imagination. The moon is at one and the same time a mirror, sustaining illusion and a doorway into universal wisdom. The moon is known as the mystery of mysteries and is the conduit through which all true knowledge emerges as a living, informing voice within the heart of organic being. Civilized minds and culturally evaluated sexuality can know little of the moon's ways except through ritual. She is the reflection of the spiritual sun and is part of the personal gravity within the individual. She in her phases must be honored. She teaches that all things have a cyclic and natural contour. As the moon affects the tides of the ocean, every individual also has inner currents of heart, mind, and body that ebb and flow, rise and fall. This is the natural, unpredictable, and beautiful poetry of being alive. How could you not love that? Yeah. As the moon affects the tides of the ocean, every individual also has inner currents of heart, mind, and body that ebb and flow, rise and fall. This is the natural, unpredictable, and beautiful poetry of being alive. Symbolism of the drawing. The moon. The path of the moon archetype is probationary, which means it is quite possibly a treacherous journey. The moon is dark power. She can seduce, enslave, and kill, but she cannot be avoided. The main character, the winged Icarus, who lies dead at the bottom of the drawing, symbolizes this. His offense was pursuing God outside himself and ignoring the first entrance to true knowledge, which is through the self. He lies dead, having fallen back to earth, with his head bleeding, suggesting that it is the blood, the life essence, which must be honored before one can take flight. Denying one's humanity or corporality leads to abstraction and a labyrinth of mental constructs which assume the shape of enlightenment but are based in a stop the world, I want to get off philosophy. One incarnates as human for specific soul purposes, and to declare the body evil or tainted is to deny divinity at the same time. In the upper left of the drawing, a serpent, symbolic of evolutionary impulse, drapes itself over a crescent-shaped boat or vessel. The suggestion is that evolution continually produces new forms into which drops of consciousness will fall and become temporarily segregated. As the serpent moves, it creates waveforms, symbolizing evolutionary impulse that draws to it particular elements from the waters of eternal potentiality. Under the crescent moon, within the center of the root matter, forming a wave, is an egg shape with a human figure in it. This is the archetypal pattern or ovum of humankind, which will be birthed into the world of matter. The crest of the wave points towards humankind's long journey through nature's many kingdoms. The evolution of the human form is the product of untold millions of years. This process is reflected in human fetal development as it repeats the passage from simple to extraordinarily complex during gestation. The human fetus exhibits mineral, plant, and animal developmental stages until it becomes recognizably human. Once the separation from source occurs, humankind as a whole passes through stages of development, finally creating civilizations based upon certain basic assumptions about the universe and its placement in it. The civilizing impulse builds bulwarks of thought, or architectures of thinking. Civilizations and religions can recognize only so much of what it means to be human, to live and die. Cultural identity, therefore, often pushes into the unconscious or shadow all that doesn't reflect its prevailing dispositions or belief. Underneath the walled city or civilization to the left of the waves is the open mouth of a beast. Its gaping jaws devour multitudes with fear. This hellish region is a realm of demons which reflects man's dark, most dreaded, and unresolved mentalities. A skull peers out from behind the wings of the fallen Icarus, a reminder that death, no matter how avoided, is a certainty. The necromantic and phallus thoughts of man are here in a pollution of hatreds, passions, and perversions. It is only through personal discipline, responsibility, and acceptance of one's fundamental humanity that this nadir of blackest night is past. The lesson is that unnatural fear must be transmuted. On either side of the moon, waves rolls over her legs. They are parting and falling back in upon themselves, drawn into time by the Earth's gravitation and evolutionary currents buried deep within the ocean of human consciousness. A yonic opening is in the center of the waves. An umbilical cord stretches from within the lunar mother, creating a primary opening into our incarnation. A second birth canal emerges from the first, revealing the fallen Icarus, or mankind bound by ignorance to his own mental gravity. The moon has been called the gateway of resurrection and the threshold of life or spiritual rebirth. All are born knowing their timeless source, but fall into ignorance as they learn the codes and languages of a particular time, gender, and culture. This conditioning is necessary as it helps to create the personality and its ability to concentrate within a particular time frame. Rebirth through the moon means to rediscover the original or natural source of one's deeper heritage. Therefore, both portals are always present, the opening into time and the opening into spirit. One is given, the other must be sought. Around the Ionic center are 4 streams made up of droplets of water and blood. Each current represents an individual and yet cooperative commingling of the archetypal, the creative, the formative, and the active worlds necessary to establish material reality. This can also be considered the combining of fire, air, water, and earth, or spirit, mind, emotion, and body. The legs of Icarus entwine themselves in a serpentine fashion around the umbilical cord, suggesting the body's innate connection with organic substance and evolution. The fallen Icarus is crucified upside down. He is bound to his abstract and materialistic misunderstandings. His head is bleeding from the wound he inflicted upon himself, having forgotten that consciousness is within an organism of being, not an equation of logic. His head is turned slightly to the right, suggesting that through his failure he has initiated the process of turning toward right knowledge. He sees that all strides and pitfalls are necessary elements for integrating living wisdom into the corporeal self. Wisdom and insight are not haphazard, but rather the product of the long and arduous work of evolution and personal effort. To the right of Icarus are roots that bind all humans to life in the body. The serpent of evolution now reappears. His body is entwined in an ancient perennial tree of birth, death, and rebirth. The tree's roots disappear into darkness beyond human memory. Atop the tree, a wolf waits hungrily, staring mercilessly into the dark abyss of human fear. He acts as a guardian at the gates to the higher wisdom. His untamed instinct reacts savagely to any that displease the moon for ignoring her natural cycles and laws. Those that refuse to honor instinct and impulse as a necessary component of life and spiritual understanding refuse their roots and will not pass beyond a mire of self-perpetuating religious or spiritual delusions. The last quadrant of the drawing is a point of departure from unnatural fear. The power of the moon, properly balanced, leads to conscious rebirth within the body. This is represented by the figure within the womb. Rays from the moon emanate during an inner darkness of gestation, revealing the lesson that human consciousness is within and a part of an unimaginable divine and cosmic organism. Showing the progress toward rebirth, the figure, the new Icarus, pushes his way toward active participation. Finally, Icarus reborn stands emerging from and being supported by his corporeal nature. He is embracing his new bride, his own anima or lunar nature. He is looking back toward the head of the moon. He has journeyed through her territories and now participates in her mysteries consciously. One of his wings is outstretched toward the moon. The other is used to embrace his bride. He has new knowledge and wisdom born of his embracing the dark, unknown, and mysterious. He has discovered that true flight begins from within. On his forehead is an upturned crescent shape which is able to receive the moon's reflected light. New receptivity and lack of an unnatural fear are preconditions for the coming day of the sun's illumination. Above, Icarus and his bride, representing the active masculine and passive feminine, are yin and yang in balance, and the tree of knowledge. And a river stretching toward a distant mountain of greater mystery and wisdom. The moon above them is full, exerting her greatest influence, illuminating their path. She is no longer hidden in darkness, but acts as a guiding influence. The central figure of the moon has her arms raised over her head. She is poised in front of an open egg shape. The sun above her is eclipsed by the full moon. The two take the same relative proportion. The inner sun or spiritual principle sends out flames that commingle with the moon's rays. The moon, for a time, is allowed to absorb the sun, as the body must absorb the spirit. From this union of opposites arises the emanation of the vital life principle. The moon holds in her hands the hilt of a sword formed from a cobra. The cobra represents the serpent of Kundalini or psychosexual energy. The sword has two sides, one that cuts through illusion, while the other creates it. The sword she holds does not taper into a point, as her path is not reached as a single point, but is a lifelong process. The hilt of the sword has an inverted crescent, reflecting back any personal projections cast upon her path. Surmounting it is an upturned crescent gathering celestial influences from above. The sword is above her closed mouth. She will not instruct with words or formulas, but must be experienced. From her mouth, an undulating path or river flows between her breasts. Encircling her breasts is a loop of infinity, repetition, and motion. The river flows down her body into the waves of evolution. Her path is watery and unstable. Her lessons are not easy and often shrouded in darkness, making the journey into her domain difficult, but ultimately rewarding. She is discovered in the watery night of consciousness, whereas most are familiar with traveling by land in the light of day. To learn the wisdom of the moon, a natural rather than conditioned humanity must be cultivated. It is difficult for worldly minds to grasp the wisdom of this archetype, but its mysteries must be entered into and much assimilated before the potential of one's inner sun can truly emerge in new and remarkable ways. Yeah, the moon and the symbolism of the drawing. And here's a picture. Hopefully you can see that. I super appreciate his work and his wisdom that he shares and that he expresses and has to give and share and hold for us, for humanity, and for in service to the whole, raising our consciousness and remembering who we are. So I just wanted to share that because that was like so amazing, like with what I was experiencing and going through and my full journey. So I've had a lot of those things that have come up. The union of opposites and the lovers. That was another one that actually, it had so much for me. The lovers. And also death and the hermit and the chariot and the magician and temperance. I have some huge things going on with all those. So with just taking a little break from being on my phone as much and going within, because it is a good time to go within and a good time to listen and a good time for those kinds of communications with the inner self, the higher self, and to really open up to what wants to be revealed. And there's a lot that's emerging right now from the unconscious. And so it's an amazing time, really. And so all of these things coming up, looking at the cycles and the seasons and stages and phases of growth and honoring all of those phases and stages within the cycles of growth. And yeah, looking at um, the wheel of the year, and in 2 weeks, Samhain or Samhain, yeah, um, is coming up, and most of us know that as like Halloween time, and but it is. I have a little board over here. I'm gonna read off of it. Um, Something that I made. I think it was last year for a circle that I had for a little Samhain gathering, and so it's a time for honoring the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. And it's a time of no time. It's a time of chaos because, um, yeah, it's thought that order comes out of chaos. And so during this time, like the energies are wild and the veils are thin, and yeah, between the living and the dead. And yeah, it's a time that like pretty much anything goes, and it's like time of surprise. And we have those traditions of like trick or treat and stuff. And it was a time like in old Celtic traditions or in Druidic societies that for 3 days they'd have this festival, and yeah, they would just be like switching roles and just like getting out of like the expected or the usual and totally going unusual or non-ordinary experiences, envisioning and journeying and all of that. And so it was like in some traditions, men and women would cross dress, and the men would dress like women and the women would dress like men. And people would leave their gates to their fields open. People would move their livestock into other pastures. People would go around, or kids would go around, and others to other homes to have dinner or like to receive hospitality. And, that's where some of the trick-or-treating comes from, some of those traditions and origins. And yeah, just the things that were happening around those times, like certain harvests, certain crops are growing. There's the pumpkin that was a turnip originally, like in Ireland. Like they didn't have pumpkins till they moved to America, and they used to use the turnips as like lanterns and stuff. And the pumpkins were like freaking amazing because of how big they got and like the shape of them and stuff, that they switched over to the pumpkin. But yeah, it's like kind of interesting, kind of funny. But yeah, it's a great time to go within and to gather and to rest and to prepare for the winter ahead. And so it's a lot going on at this time of transition. And that's why, it was like a time of no time. Yeah. So the nights are starting to get longer and the daytime is decreasing, and the vegetation is decaying and starting. You can smell it in the air. So it is like pretty much Samhain is like a time of harvest and celebration, and it's like usually the last harvest before the winter. And so the veil is thin, and there's communication that's possible with the nature spirits and the fairies and your guides and the unseen realms, and the hidden realms, the fairy realms. It's a time for honoring roots and death and rebirth. It's time for honoring the ancestors and our family tree, our progeny, and what will our legacy be? What are we leaving? And so it's like a time of summer's end. It's the witch's new year. It's a new year, beginning of a new cycle of growth, but that begins with death. So it's the end of the growing season, the darker nights, shorter days, the vegetation's dying back. We acknowledge the life and the death, life, death, life cycles of growth and abundance. And the harvest celebration, winter preparations, gatherings and remembrance and appreciation, faith for a new year of abundance and blessings, Thanksgiving, pretty much, for all that we've been able to share, offer, and grow and harvest and plant. And it's about commitment, devotion, and renewal. I've been doing that lately. I've been catching up on sleep and reviewing my commitments and what I'm devoted to and what I want to contribute to and what I want to be in service to and all of that. So it's time for invocation and ritual and reorientation, direction, navigation, initiation, integration, activation, attention, focus, intentions, creative reclamation, and a demonstration, like through action and expression. So it's the time of the dark moon, so it's about inner seeing and connecting the two, the inner and the outer. The tricksters at play, and there's lunacy and chaos, and it's the in-between times, beginning and the end. The veils are lifted, so things are more transparent, and all you need to do is close your eyes to see. So it's the full circle of all things. And offering, sharing, giving, receiving, being, living, and releasing. And let's have some. Oh yeah, there's all sorts of colors and associations and correspondences with Samhain and symbols. All kinds of cool symbols, really, that I love. Yeah, I love Halloween and I love Samhain. And a couple years ago, I started celebrating it in a way that I never had before, and it was like really, really cool. And around this time, it was like the new moon on Samhain, and I got to make like some herbal and plant tinctures, and I made got in the kitchen, got wild with, and made some pumpkin bread and some pumpkin treats, and we carved pumpkins, my husband and I and my stepdaughter. That was fun, doing that. And we also set up a little ancestors altar and put pictures of our loved ones and our family, grandparents and symbols for our ancestors on a little altar. And just took the time to give thanks and honor and acknowledge our connections and our roots. And so it is a time about the roots too, about rooting and like eating those root vegetables too. That's what our body is craving, like warming things, because the temperatures are dropping too, and so maybe we're getting a little more fatigued or tired at night. I know I can say that. Like, I've been on a new schedule, which has been interesting. We're going to bed pretty early and waking up pretty early, so and still taking time, like when I feel like I need to, like during the day, to rest and just relax and slow down a little bit, because it is a time to slow down. The energy from summer's like unwinding, and it's a time just to appreciate the beauty and being here now, and being with what is right now, and allowing that rest and restoration. And so, but time for reflecting and renewing and reviewing. And so it's been fun for me to do that. Really, what I did first was just looking at like all my journals from this year, and one that I had started writing in January, and it seems like crazy forever since it was January, like just wow, because this year has had so much in it. It was 9 months ago, really, but seems like a couple years ago in certain ways. But I had been writing about like how I felt about this year and how potent I felt it was going to be, and how it felt exciting but really kind of scary too in certain ways. And that was around the time that I drew some of my medicine cards for the year, and I really had never done that before. But it was like just kind of funny, just going with my intuition. Didn't really know like what was going on, but like some of my logical mind doesn't need to understand it for it to be like all that I need. And then But later, it's like some of me catches up to what's happening. Like, oh, okay. But it's just funny that way, where the body just knows, or where there's one part of us that already knows and is here to guide us and help us. And if we allow ourselves to be danced and listen and respond and express, this is kind of funny through play of it, through playing at being and being played, being danced, dancing, being danced. So, and we are the dance too, the dancer being danced. So, yeah, it's really fun to look at like all the journals from this year, and then I went back and I looked at journals from the last couple years, and everything that I've been able to work with and play with and cultivate and develop and express and call into being and bring forth and through me. So that's super awesome to be able to do that. I have these glow sticks in my hands, yeah, and I thought that'd be fun. So sometimes life is like a glow stick, and we need to be broken and shooken up. Shooken up and woken up. Yeah, to glow, to shine our light. Yeah, and to know ourselves through the dark. Yeah, through that holy container, that fertile dark. So it's like, reminds me of the soil again, and being buried like a seed, and a seed that's planted. And the seed, yeah, what seeds have been planted and what seeds have sprouted, and what the seed needs to go through to yield to the sprout, and pretty much comes undone and is unraveled, yeah, from the inside out. So yeah, feeling that. Feeling that. So there's this poem that I found in one of my journals from a couple years ago that was sitting. And it says, to be great, be whole, exclude nothing, exaggerate nothing that is not you, be whole in everything, put all you are into the smallest thing you do, so in each lake the moon shines with splendor because it blooms up above. Fernando Pessoa. I read that one more time. To be great, be whole, exclude nothing, exaggerate nothing that is not you, be whole in everything, put all you are into the smallest thing you do, so in each lake the moon shines with splendor because it blooms up above. Yeah, Fernando Pessoa. That's awesome. Yeah, and so a lot of things that relate to that, like, are the fullness and wholeness and wellness, and trueness. And so that's what I've been working on: wholeness, fullness, wellness, and trueness, and all of that. All of that magic, all that goodness. Working and playing with that. And it's really awesome to see all the support and the availability of allies, resources, friends, gifts, blessings, opportunities for our growth, for our discovery, for our learning, for our remembering, for our awakening, our remembering, forgetting, dancing, playing, practicing, remembering again, beginning again and again. So one of those things, that keeps coming up is seeing, and seeing through the illusion, and like seeing through deception, through like the architecture of thinking in certain ways, and constructing these identities and perceptions through all these reflections and projections. And this is so funny, like what we see and what we're aware of, or what we convince ourselves we're seeing, or describing to ourselves that we're seeing or being. We're so silly beings being so silly. Silly beings being silly. Yeah, always. And so, yeah, the owl and Athena, yeah, she's been an ally this year for me, Athena, and the last couple weeks too, the warrior goddess of wisdom, and the owl is her companion, and the owl sits on her shoulder to help her illuminate her blind spot so she can see the whole truth rather than half a truth. And so, yeah, the owl in medicine cards. I looked at it earlier today, and 21 is the number of the card. An owl. Owl magic omens time and space. Does the truth emerge? Casting out deception. Silent flight. Sacred medicine bird. My glasses are a little foggy, so I'm going to clean them really quick. Yeah. So owl is about deception. Owl medicine is symbolically associated with clairvoyance, astral projection, and magic, both black and white. Owl is called night eagle on several medicine wheels used by American Indian teachers. Traditionally, owl sits in the east, the place of illumination. Since time immemorial, humanity has been afraid of the night, the dark, and the unseen, waiting fearfully for the first crack of morning light. Conversely, night is owl's friend. Owl hunts its prey at night. Not only can owl see in the dark, it can also accurately pinpoint and identify any sound. This gives it a great advantage when seeking food. Owls are the night hunters. Some native people are fearful of owl and call its feathers deceiver feathers. An owl feather is silent. You cannot hear owl when it flies, but its prey definitely knows when it strikes, for its beak and talons are razor sharp. Owl is oftentimes the medicine of sorcerers and witches. If owl is your medicine, you will be drawn to magical practices and perhaps explore the dark arts. You should resist any temptation to practice black magic or any art that takes away energy from another person or being. If you have owl medicine, these night birds will have a tendency to collect around you even in the daytime because they recognize a kinship with you. Is it any wonder that in many cultures owl is a symbol for wisdom? This is because owl can see that which others cannot, which is the essence of true wisdom. Where others are deceived, owl sees and knows what is there. Athena, the great goddess of wisdom, had a companion owl on her shoulder which revealed unseen truths to her. Owl had the ability to light up Athena's blind side, enabling her to speak the whole truth as opposed to only half-truth. If owl is your personal medicine, no one can deceive you about what they are doing, no matter how they try to disguise or hide it from you. You may be a little frightening to be around, since so many people have ulterior motives which you see right through. If you are unaware of your medicine power, you may take your keen insights and abilities for granted. Others never do. You may frighten them and reflect their blindness, for you cannot be fooled. Owl medicine people know more about an individual's inner life than that person knows about herself or himself. If you have pulled the owl card, you are being asked to use your powers of keen, silent observation to intuit some life situation. Owl is befriending you and aiding you in seeing the total truth. Owl can bring you messages in the night through dreams or meditation. Pay attention to the signals and omens. The truth always brings further enlightenment. If you have owl upside down in your cards, this is the contrary meaning, then you have been greatly deceived by either yourself or another. Perhaps witchcraft or black magic is being used against you, or maybe you are using witchcraft or sorcery to aid you when you should be praying and asking the Great Spirit for guidance. The message is to befriend the darkness inside yourself. Look deeply, and soon the bright light of dawn will illuminate you. Then ask yourself what you are in the dark about. How and by whom are you being deceived? Have you lied to yourself about someone or something? Are you being greatly deceived or just slightly deceived? Owl tells you to keep an eye on your property and your loved ones. Remember that owl is always asking who. And in my Animal Speak book by Ted Andrews, I looked at owl yesterday, and I'm going to just read a little bit about owl. The mystery of magic, omen, silent wisdom, and vision in the night, and the cycle of power is nocturnal and year-round. So no bird has as much myth and mystery surrounding it than owl. Most perceptions of it are confused. It is not unusual to get contrary opinions of the owl. It has an ancient aura of mystery about it. Part of this is because it is a nocturnal bird, and nighttime has always seemed mysterious to humans. The owl is a symbol of the feminine, the moon, and the night. It has been called a cat with wings. It has been worshipped as an idol and hated as the reincarnation of the devil. It has been believed to have great healing powers both in North America and on other continents. Because of its association with the moon, it has ties to fertility and seduction, for the moon is the arouser of men and owls. The owl is the bird of magic and darkness, of prophecy and wisdom. To the ancient Greeks, the owl is associated with the goddess Athena, and it was a symbol of higher wisdom. It was the guardian of the Acropolis. To the early Christian Gnostics, it is associated with Lilith, the first wife of Adam, who refused to be submissive to him. To the Pawnee, it was a symbol of protection. To the Pueblo, it was associated with the skeleton man, the god of death, but who was also a spirit of fertility. Owl medicine is symbolically associated with clairvoyance, astral projection, and magic, both black and white. Many superstitions and beliefs have come to be associated with it. Owls have been thought of as the reincarnation of the dead. In Wales, the owl has come to be associated with fertility. If heard near a pregnant girl, it indicates an easy birth. The most predominant is that of owl being able to extract secrets. It was believed in ancient Rome that to place a feather or a part of an owl on a sleeping person would enable you to discover his or her secrets. This is all tied to one of its keynotes, especially when we look at its acute vision and hearing. The owl is a bird of the night, and the night has long been a symbol of the darkness within, the place in which humans hide their secrets. The owl has great vision and hearing. They can adjust in an instant from telescopic to microscopic focus. The pupils respond in a fraction of a second to very minute changes in light intensity. The owl's eyes are specially adapted to detect subtle movements. They also have extra light-sensitive cones and rods in the retina to help with this. And so, the yellow coloring of the eyes is very symbolic. It makes the eyes much more expressive, but it hints of the light of the sun, alive in the dark of the night. The sun lives through owl at night. Meditation on this alone will reveal much about the magic of the owl within your life. Contrary to popular belief, the owl can see very well during the daylight. It is just more effective and more acute at night. Even in the darkest night, with its acute eyesight, an owl can pinpoint the exact location of its prey. Its hearing is just as keen as its eyesight. The ears of the owl are asymmetrical, and one ear is usually larger than the other. They are also located in different positions on the head. This enables it to sort out the auditory signals it picks up, facilitating it being able to locate its prey more easily. One who works with owl medicine will be able to see and hear what others try to hide. You will hear what is not being said, and you will see what is hidden or in the shadows. You can detect and pinpoint the subtleties. This can make others uncomfortable because they will not be able to deceive you about their motives or actions. Owl people have a unique ability to see into the darkness of other souls and life. This is very scary to most people. The vision and hearing capabilities has metaphysical links to the gifts of clairvoyance and clairaudience as well. The owl, as a bird of the night, can teach all of the secrets of the night. These secrets involve everything that transpires when the sun is gone. Owls are the eyes of the night, and they see what is not in the open. They have secret knowledge that they can share. Their medicine can extract secrets. There are over 100 species of owls, and they have always had an intimate link to humans. Wherever humans live, so do rodents, the primary food of owls. Because of this, owls live where humans live. The unfortunate part is that many hunters and farmers kill owls frequently, believing cats will do better with rodent control. Nothing is further from the truth. A barn owl can kill 10 times the amount of mice than a cat in a single night, and more if they are young to be fed. So like humans, they blink by closing the upper eyelids, giving them a human expression, which has added to the mysticism of owls. Unlike humans, though, their eyes cannot move. Their neck is flexible, giving them a wide range of peripheral vision. They cannot turn their heads completely around, but they do move it so quickly that it gives that appearance. The symbolism of the neck and its flexibility should be meditated upon for those with owl medicine. If your neck is stiff and inflexible, you are hindering your perceptions to a great degree. Neck massages would be very beneficial for anyone working with owl totems. The owl, like hawks and other birds of prey, has a third eyelid. This eyelid moves from side to side. It cleanses the eye, clearing its vision. Again, this symbolizes so much about the new vision opening to you. It often reflects that you were born very perceptive with a vision of others that you may or may not have recognized or acknowledged. Often, those with an owl as power totem have a unique ability for seeing into the eyes and souls of others. Often, these perceptions are discarded as wild imaginings or such phrases as, "Why in the world would I think that about this person?" These kinds of imaginings, positive and negative, should be trusted. The mating habits of owls follow similar patterns to other birds. The male will often increase its hooting and dance to get the attention of the female. Many owls like living alone and only come together to breed. So the female, especially of the great horned species, only mates when she truly trusts the male. Some owls mate for life, such as the barn owl. Others mate and stay together only until the owlets leave the nest. Many owls do not build nests. They will lay eggs in the forks of trees or use abandoned nests of other birds. Because they often have unusual nesting procedures, it's not uncommon to find owlets and fledglings at the base of trees where they have fallen. Many people pick them up, leaving them to be abandoned. This is rarely so. If left alone, the mother will take care of them. Usually only the female will brood, but the male will keep the mates and the owlets in steady supply of mice. A male feeding the female and her brood can kill dozens of mice or its equivalent in a single night. This attests to the great hunting ability and rodent control that an owl can bring to an environment. Owls fly silently. The front edge of the wing has a fringe that silences the flight. Most owls have wings that are great for the size of the owl. This also enables the owl to fly slowly and smoothly, facilitating its silent hunt. This silence is something that all with an owl totem should practice. Keep silent and go about your business. This will bring you the greatest success. Some owls are endangered, and this is partly due to destruction of habitat and partly due to unthinking hunting. The spotted owl is an example of an owl in danger because of the loss of habitat. The barn owl is threatened or endangered in many states. This is due predominantly to hunting and the perception of owls as pests. Much study has been done on owls in regards to their prey. This is possible predominantly due to owl pellets. An owl will usually swallow its prey whole and head first. The parts of the prey that are indigestible, the bones, fur, teeth, claws, and such, are then regurgitated in the form of pellets. This is a very symbolic act in which much significance can be found. In the swallowing of the prey head first, the owl takes into itself the wisdom and energy of the prey. The regurgitation reflects its ability to eliminate those aspects that are unbeneficial and unhealthy for it. It is important to study the individual characteristics of each species of owl as well as those for all owls in general. This will help you to define exactly how the owl is going to affect you in your life. In the context of this book, we are only going to examine 6 particular owls, but this will be enough to provide you with an idea as how to best to relate your owl totem to your individual life. Some owls have a balancing raptor, and the owl is lunar and nocturnal, while some raptors are diurnal and solar. Owls and some hawks will share the same territory, one hunting and using it by day and the other by night. They don't necessarily get along, but they do tolerate each other in varying degrees. These can be seen as balancing medicines, and rituals and meditations can be used with the owl and its solar equivalent. They can be used to balance the male and female. One example is using owl and hawk feathers together as part of a dream bundle to help stimulate lucid dreaming. For example, a red-tailed hawk feather tied between 2 great horned owl feathers and hung over the bed may help you assert your will over the dream state. This can be used to develop astral projection or just for conscious control of the dream scenario during sleep. So, the most common examples of owls and their daytime hawk equivalents are found on the chart below. So the great horned owl's solar equivalent is the red-tailed hawk. The barred owl's equivalent is the red-shouldered hawk. The screech owls are the kestrels. Short-eared owls, harrier hawks, and snowy owls, the white-phase ear falcons. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So the barred owl is, Link. Daytime Link is the red-shouldered hawk, so that's really interesting. I feel a kinship with the great horned owl and the red-tailed hawk. So yeah, those are 2 of my medicines right there. And I'll just read a little bit about the barred owl. The barred owl is often found in dense deciduous forests and swamps. Because of loss of environment, it has invaded the haunts of the spotted owl. In the owl kingdom, the larger will also hunt the smaller. Since the spotted owl is smaller, it is somewhat threatened, even though many believe the spotted owl is just a close relative. Both share a love for primeval forests. The daytime equivalent of the barred owl is the red-shouldered hawk. These two share the same territory amicably, unlike the great horned and the red-tailed hawk. Both the barred owl and the red-shouldered hawk are at home in moist woodlands. They even share the same nesting space on occasion. The barred owl has a benign nature, and this is what is most outstanding about it. Although they may try to appear threatening, they are harmless. It is a great actor and can put on quite a show. Many believe its vocal performances are designed to put other animals and people off. It reflects the ability of this owl to teach us how to use the voice for the greatest effects, or for greater effects. So, yeah, that's not all on owl, but yeah, that is a good amount. Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, there's so much about, yeah, all owl and all of these animal medicines and our teachers and totems. And so, yeah, I thought that was awesome. Associated with the moon and like seeing and the darkness and like the sun, the reflection of the sun and all of that, and then taking in energy and releasing, purging what we don't need. And then I have a dream dictionary, a dreamer's dictionary. It's a Jungian dreamer's dictionary that my dad gave me a couple years ago. And just talking with a friend about a dream and seeing certain themes that kept popping up for me too, around the eyes and seeing and blindness and deception and all those things. So I decided I wanted to take a look at some of those things just for fun. And so the little section for eyes here, enlightenment, understanding, comprehension, quote unquote, I saw it with my own eyes. Intellectual awareness, consciousness, inner vision, the third eye, unconscious material becoming conscious. Are you or are you not seeing eye to eye with someone, perhaps in authority, or do you need to look at something more carefully? The eye can also represent the I, the dreamer's ego, as well as the opportunity process of seeing oneself or becoming enlightened with self-knowledge, insight, or spiritual knowledge, the inner eye of God. Another of its aspects is the passage of time, which occurs in the blink of an eye. The pupil of the eye can be a pun on the student-teacher relationship. You're still a pupil, a student in your own eyes or someone else's. Woodman says if you see yourself reflected in the pupils of someone else's eyes, especially those of a teacher, it can be a way of saying you are being loved for what is within you, your potential. There is also the evil eye, related to negative powers, the shadow, and magic. Deliberately failing to make eye contact suggests avoidance of intimacy. Closed eyes, blindness, symbolize not wanting to see. You must be blind. An eye in the palm of a hand is a well-known symbol for clairvoyance and divine creative wisdom. In Christian art, an eye surrounded by sun rays symbolizes God, the omnipresent eye. In Egyptian mythology, the right eye of Horus represents the sun, while the left eye represents the moon. Many mythologies refer to a one-eyed person, usually one who sacrifices an eye to attain a special knowledge. The most famous of these is Odin. One eye might also symbolize a one-sided viewpoint. So I thought that was kind of cool about the eyes. And the mirror. The mirror, since, yeah, the moon is another symbol, or can symbolize the reflection of the sun, and the mirror, yeah. So mirrors are complex symbols, and in Jungian terms are related to a number of motifs. They can symbolize the intellect, namely our thoughts, reflections. So looking into a mirror can symbolize reflection in general, or especially self-reflection, appraisal. It may represent coming face to face with an inner or worldly issue. What you see may be related to your persona and a need to strengthen, change it, putting on makeup, adjusting your appearance. Zen priests often speak of the inner mirror, which is the Buddha or God mind, the self.